going on YouTube? Today I bring you it's just going to be one round probably, unless it gets a good amount of attention. I might do a round two, but just one round of my predictive mock draft for this year. So I already did my what would I do, and that was 7 rounds. So if you want to go check those out, those are uploaded, but this is going to be my predictive mock for what I think will actually happen this Thursday, which is going to be about 2 days away when this uploads. But yeah, so I'm going to be going into like what I think each team will actually end up doing in this draft, not really anything to do with what I think will happen. So starting off with number one, for me, and I've been saying this for months and months at this point, I think it's going to be Travon Walker. And the fact that I've been saying it for months is pretty crazy too. It's definitely one of those things where it's like, I've been saying this for a while. I don't think he should go one at all. In fact, if you go watch my video, Travon Walker is a 3rd rounder to me. He's basically K'Lavon Chaisson, and that did not go well for Jacksonville trying to develop him. He's a developmental, raw, athletic player, and if there's any team in the NFL I don't want to try to develop that, it's the Jaguars. However, I do believe it is going to be the pick. At the end of the day, I think the Jaguars are looking for that guy to pair with Josh Allen. It wasn't Chaisson, so I think they're going to try again. And I really hope it does end up being Evan Neal. I really do, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be Travon Walker at the end of the day. Number 2, the Lions. And I would go over to like who I would pick, but I already did all that and stuff. So with the Lions, I feel pretty confidently that they're going to be taking Aiden Hutchinson. If he's not there at 1, they're going to take him at 2. And realistically, I think at the end of the day, KT is a much better fit in Detroit, but he just doesn't fit with the culture. And even then, I think that a lot of the things of how his attitude's not good and that he doesn't have heart for the game, I think that is false and overblown. But still, I mean, Dan Campbell himself has said it, that he just doesn't think he'd fit with the team. Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, you keep him in Michigan. Everybody loves the guy. He's just a great person, right? And I think that's what Detroit would really love, is a guy that's going to go in there and put in hard work to wherever he goes, despite the fact that it's Detroit. And that's something they could really use, is a player that's not going to want out in 2 years, someone that can go in and make an impact right away, make your team better. I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think he's the greatest scheme fit, but he can certainly still play in a Major League 3-4 system, though. And I do like Hutchinson. I still do like. I prefer KT, but I think he'll go to the Lions at 2. Number 3, we got the Texans. And see, for me personally, I really don't feel like Kayvon Thibodeau is built to be a 4-3 end. I think he's built to be a 3-4 outside linebacker. And I really don't think he would work in Lovie Smith's defense. Now, that's what I would do, obviously, or that's not what I wouldn't do. But does that mean that they don't go with him? I think it does, because I really think they're going to end up being high on one of the corners or Evan Neal. And looking at it, I mean, I feel like they probably have their tackles set in their mind. Laramie Tunsil is staying. I think they like Titus Howard. So I think it is going to be end up being a corner. And, a lot of people are really high on Sauce, and I do think he would be a good fit in a Lovie Smith defense. However, I think the rumors of Derek Stingley being a top 3 pick are going to end up being true. And I think it's going to be kind of one of those picks where people don't really talk about Stingley to Houston all that much, but I think it makes sense. They have the need. He'd be very talented there. He'd be a great player for them going forward. So I think that's what's going to end up happening there. Number 4, the Jets. Again, I don't think KT fits in this type of a scheme. I could see him at least working out in Lovie Smith. For me, it's just like, I don't feel like he works in a solid defense. I just don't. I don't view him that way. But does that mean that they wouldn't take him? Again, I don't think so. And I think corner, again, has to be in play here. But for me, I think the pick is going to end up being Ikem Ekwonu. While I do think Evan Neal is the better player overall, while being just as versatile, I do think Icky does fit a bit better with the Jets. And they're both very versatile players, but I think if it comes to versatility, ultimately I do have to give it to Ekwonu, because he is, got that build to be a bit more of a guard if necessary than an Evan Neal. So I do think they'll end up going with Ekwonu, but I do like Neal over him. And I imagine the teams, maybe even the Jets can probably see that, but I think Ekwonu just fits better here. Then at number 5, we got the Giants, and it's a really tough pick here between Evan Neal and KT. I mean, I think at the end of the day, because, the Panthers are right there, you're scared, right, that They're going to take a fantastic tackle in Evan Neal. So I think the pick's going to end up being Evan Neal here, just because, again, he's a great tackle. He'll probably end up playing a right tackle for you, and you're really starting to put together a very good O-line for whoever's going to be that quarterback in New York. And you're really scared, because you're pretty confident you're probably not going to get him if at 7, especially with Carolina picking right after you. So for me, I think the pick does have to be Evan Neal here, and it will be Evan Neal. Then at number 6, we got the Panthers. And in real life, I think it's realistic that they take Evan Neal if he's here. Since he's not here, I think the pick would then go to Kenny Pickett. However, I'm pretty sure that some team is really going to be wanting to get their hands on a Malik Willis or a KT at this point, because next up you've got, the Giants, who could definitely take, KT or Willis, or even Sauce. You got the Falcons, who could take all 3 of those guys. You got the Seahawks, who could take all 3 of these guys, right? There's definitely some there's some good players here that are going up next. So I think this would be a prime spot for a trade here. And I haven't pre-scripted any of this, so I'm kind of just saying it as we go along. And just looking, I don't think there are any teams that I really see jumping up all the way to 6 here to get in front of these guys. So it's kind of tough to judge, but ultimately, I'm just trying to think, is there a team that really jumps up here to grab a player? And I don't think they will at this spot, especially because we've heard that teams aren't very willing to trade up in this mock. So I think Panthers are going to stay put at 6, and I would love for them to go Malik Willis. I think he would be that missing piece for them. Sadly, I'm pretty sure the pick's going to be Kenny Pickett. He attended Temple with Matt Rule, and Matt Rule loves picking his guys, as well as the fact that the Panthers just seem to be very, very high on Kenny Pickett. It doesn't make sense to me. I think Malik Willis would be a way, way better pick, but I do think Pickett's going to end up going to Carolina here. Then we got the Giants at 7, and KT looks really appetizing here, I think, because he fits the defense. Having him next to Azeez Ojulari would be a fantastic duo. I also really like the idea of Kyle Hamilton, though. I think he'd be a great fit in this defense as well. Even Malik Willis, Sauce Gardner, there's a lot of directions you can go here. Honestly, I think it's realistic in a way that they do end up trading James Bradbury, but I really am starting to doubt whether that's actually going to happen or not. So for me, again, I just don't see a trade happening here. You have a lot of great players available here for the Giants, but ultimately I am going to go with KT. It makes sense. He fits the scheme. I think it'd be great to get a guy in there. You got him, Azeez, Leonard Williams. You're picking up a great guy that's going to add to a very good pass rush now. At 8, we got the Falcons, and Malik Willis would probably be the smart pick here. Sauce Gardner's very good. However, I'm pretty sure teams are a big fan of these 2 receivers. There's a lot of stuff circulating that Jameson Williams is the superstar level prospect. Personally, I think that's smoke. I think, what I personally think is that teams are kind of trying to put out that narrative that they really want this guy, so that this guy can drop to them. And I think at the end of the day, Atlanta's going to be going with Garrett Wilson. Just a fantastic receiver. He's my number 1. He can really do it all. He can do it all, and he's great at it all. Fantastic catch radius, and just, as a receiver, he's not going to be Jamar Chase. He's not Justin Jefferson, but he is the best in this class. And I think Atlanta could really use a receiver like him right now. At number 9, the Seahawks. Again, Malik Willis makes a lot of sense here. But I think Sauce makes a lot of sense here as well. And it's really tough. But I think Ahmad Gardner is probably going to be a Seahawk, to be honest. Again, I don't see a trade happening here. And yeah, there's some interesting players here. But I just think Ahmad Gardner is going to be really high on a lot of teams' boards, obviously, and even at 9 could already be considered a bit of a fall for him, because he could go as early as 3, really even 2, technically. So Ahmad Gardner, I think, will go here at 9 to the Seahawks. They'd love to get him. Jets at 10. So we already went with a Kemikonu, kind of went for that offensive line. Now you're interested, I think, mainly by Jameson Williams and Kyle Hamilton, unless there's players I'm forgetting. I'm going to have to scroll through just to make sure there's no one. But I think, yeah, majorly it's going to be, those 2 guys. And looking at it, I'm a big fan of Kyle Hamilton. he's still probably my number one player in the class, and I understand that there is a lot of issues with him in some ways, but I explained it all in my other video. Like, he's not going to go in there and be a perimeter one-on-one guy. That's not what he is. I think teams are aware of that. And you're getting yourself a guy that is going to be a better Jamal Adams in all reality. Like, he can't blitz the same way, but he's way better in coverage. Do you take that? I think there's definitely a big chance that you do. But I also think the Jets would be super in love with Jameson Williams. They don't really have that speed threat. Corey Davis was disappointing this last year. Elijah Moore should break out. Maybe a trade for Debo. Who knows? It's probably not going to happen, especially not before the draft, though. You just don't have that like speed threat. And for a guy like Zach Wilson that has such a great arm, getting that next level to your game, a prospect that a lot of teams are very high on, I think Jameson Williams makes a lot of sense here to the Jets at 10. Number 11, we got the Commanders, and I think Malik Willis would make a lot of sense in reality here, just because I'm not a fan of Carson Wentz. I don't think he's their future. They do think he's their future. And if I'm Washington, I think you're really looking at probably... It's tough to judge, right? Because there's a lot of good players, but are you wanting to take any of them right now at 11? I'm not sure. So this is probably a spot I'm looking to trade down, honestly, if I am Washington. And, you got guys like Kyle Hamilton, Malik Willis, Jordan Davis available and stuff. Is there a team that's willing to jump up here 11? You got the Vikings, you got the Texans. Is there a team that's going to be taking a quarterback here? No, but you're also pretty concerned if another team is willing to jump up and grab a quarterback here. So, at the end of the day, do they trade out here? If not, where do they go? I went with Zion Johnson in my mock, and I still think that makes a lot of sense, but I don't think they actually end up going with him in real life. Yeah, to be honest, I feel like this is probably the spot that you're going to see Pittsburgh move up here because, they made it very clear that they are in love with Malik Willis. I think it's probably going to end up happening, and this just feels like the right situation where it's like, if you're Washington, I think you'd rather have kind of that, like 20th overall right now. You gain some draft capital, and if you're the Steelers, you get to move up here and, get your quarterback, hopefully, of the future. So, you're moving up 9 spots here. You're probably going to give up, like, a third this year or a third next year, and like we'll say a third this year as well. You're landing your future franchise quarterback. We'll also throw in like a fifth from next year. We'll see if it goes through though. Trade was declined. All right, I'm gonna get it to go through though. I'll tell you guys what it is at the end. And we got the trade to go through. So basically, it's going to be Pittsburgh giving up obviously their first this year, as well as a third this year and a second next year for a first, not for a first next year, just for this pick, as well as a fourth rounder as next year. And so at the 11th pick here, the Steelers are going to be taking hopefully their quarterback of the future in Malik Willis. Like I said, they've made it very clear that they're in love with him. It makes a lot of sense. I think if you give him a couple years behind Mitch Trubisky, you build up that offense a bit more. All of a sudden, you're going to be back to some very good football in a couple years, where the AFC should have died down a bit by then. Then number 12, Kyle Hamilton, I think, does make a lot of sense here, actually, because Harrison Smith is getting older, and I think Kyle Hamilton could definitely take over that role and be very good at it. But I don't think that is going to be the pick, though. I just don't think it's not worth it. I think you can upgrade at other positions without taking a safety here that's not going to be used that much. You might be looking to upgrade the offensive line. Zion Johnson would make a lot of sense here. Charles Cross is still available. They don't really need a tackle, but, it's just something to note. Maybe a team wants to move up here. Again, Zion Johnson, I think, does make a lot of sense for the Vikings. He'd be a great guard to get here. I go with Kyer Elam to the Vikings all the time. I don't know if they actually go corner in the first round, though. I just don't feel like it's one of their priorities. So really, I think Zion Johnson will be the pick here. You don't have great players at guard just in general. Zion Johnson, the guy that can play tackle, guard, center, wherever you really need him to. Just a very talented lineman that would add some great play to the offensive line. Was pretty poor last year, so maybe a spot where you trade down, but I think Zion Johnson makes sense here. 13, if he falls to 13, I do think that the Texans will end up taking Kyle Hamilton. Um, Again, I already talked about him, but I love the guy. I think he'll be great. I think he'd make a lot of sense here for the Texans. He's a great player to get, fits, and he's going to be a great safety for them. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I like the pick. At 14, the Ravens are going to. Now, I do believe that they are in love with Trevor Penning, right? They made that known that they really do like this tackle class. However, I think in this situation, a guy like Charles Cross is going to, quote, fall. I think this is really where he should get picked regardless. But I think they're going to end up going Charles Cross. The dude is definitely a solid pass protector that does have some nice upside to him. I'm personally, kind of in that camp where, like, I don't know if he'll ever be like an elite tackle, but at the very least, you're getting a guy that could switch into guard if you needed him to, but you're looking to be kind of that right tackle of the future. And you can, maybe look at moving Morgan Moses into the inside. But they're very high in the tackle class. I think Charles Cross makes sense here. Would be Trevor Penning otherwise, but with a guy like Cross falling here, I think that'll be the pick. At 15, the Eagles. If you're Philadelphia here, you're looking wide receiver still. Guys like Drake London, Treylon Burks on the board. You're also definitely looking at corner. Andrew Booth, I think, would make a lot of sense for the Eagles. They don't really value linebacker, so I don't think Devin Lloyd really goes here. They also don't really need edge right now. If you're looking at the Saints and Chargers, two teams that could one probably will go receiver, and the other definitely could go receiver. I think you're going to go with the receiver here. And at this point, it's another pick that I also made in my own 7-round mock draft, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Drake London just seems like a very good fit with the Eagles. I think they would use him correctly as a slot, and he could turn into one of the more dominant slot players in the league. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Get Jalen Hurts someone he can throw to over the middle. At 16, almost halfway through now. Again, Saints are going to not necessarily be looking at receiver, right? Because I think there is a bit of question here because they're very high on the tackle class, right? They're another team that's also made that known. And so I think, they'll go receiver with one of the picks, right? But do they go with receiver first? Well, you look at the guys picking right after them, and I think they're also going to be very high on the tackle class as well. They definitely need like a right tackle and a right guard. So while a receiver does seem like an obvious pick here, are the Chargers in all likelihood really going to go with a receiver in round one? The Eagles just literally took one. I think instead of a receiver here at 16, you're actually going to end up going Trevor Penning, who is more of a right tackle, but you're probably, I think he can switch over to left tackle. He's decently versatile and a guy that, again, if he doesn't work out at tackle, you can switch into guard, but they're high on the tackle class, and I think this makes sense for the Saints. They've made it known, and, I think I have higher hopes of getting a receiver I like here than, not getting Trevor Penning here. At 17, the Chargers, halfway through now. There's a lot of talk for a while about them going Jordan Davis, and I'm just not believing it. I'm not personally that high on him, and I don't think NFL teams really are either. He's a very athletic guy, sure, but he just didn't ever show that at Georgia. He's a first down, second down, run defending defensive tackle, and he can come in on third downs. Tired, sure, but come in on third downs on like third and short situations. The Chargers already went out and got Austin Johnson and Sebastian Joseph Day. They don't really have a need at defensive tackle right now, and Jordan Davis is not a guy you can just switch out to the outside. So I don't really think that's going to end up being the pick. If not, where do the Chargers go? Again, you're definitely going to be looking at the O-line class here. I don't think Kenyon Green's going to end up being a first rounder, but if so, probably more of a late guy. In the tackle class, Bernhard Raymond certainly makes a lot of sense here, but do the Chargers reach on him at 17? I don't know. And at the defensive side of the ball, corners a need, sure. I don't know if Andrew Booth fits the best here, though. And so I think at the end of the day, if it's not a trade down, the guy that you're looking at the closest here is probably Devin Lloyd, because you really don't have that good of a linebacker unit, but Devin Lloyd is like the top guy in this class that I think is worth the top 10 pick. If you're the Chargers, I would definitely love to take him, but at the same time, there's also potential that somebody might come up and trade up here. If someone does trade up, who does? I don't know if any team is particularly crazy over any of these guys, to be honest. So maybe a trade up could happen here. I think the Chiefs are very likely to be a team that ends up trading up, but with the Chargers, it's not going to happen. So Yeah, I think at the end of the day here, we are going to end up just going Devin Lloyd, um, who disappeared for a second there. We're going to go Devin Lloyd, who is the top linebacker in the class. I think he fits. He'll be a great linebacker for the Chargers, who are building a nasty defense. At 18, Eagles back up. And at this point, you went Drake London with your first pick. And now, with a guy here at 18, you're going to go Andrew Booth. You need corner help, and I don't think Andrew Booth is ever going to be an elite corner. He's not my number one. He's my number four. Or he's my number five, actually, I believe. Yeah, he's my number five. We're going to we're going to Geico. Yeah, get off the screen. For a guy that a lot of people are very high on, I'm just not. I think he can be a very high-end number two, just not a number one for some teams, sure. But if you have Darius Slay, no, he's gonna be your number two. But regardless, he'll make a nice duo for at least a few years and be a serviceable, probably number one in the future if you're in Philadelphia. So Andrew Booth makes a lot of sense here for the Eagles. 19 pick is pretty easy. Like guys like Treylon Burks, they're interesting, but Chris Olave just makes too much sense. It's another pick that I did in my mock draft, but he just makes sense. He fits the scheme. He'd be a great player to have across from Michael Thomas. It makes sense. You need receiver. You got Trevor Penning earlier. I think it makes a lot of sense here for the Saints. Now at 20, if you're Washington, you traded down. And honestly, I think Devin Lloyd was kind of one of the guys I was eyeing for if you did trade down here. I don't think Washington's in as big a need for a receiver as people think. At guard, I definitely think Kenyon Green is in play here for sure. You got your pass rush guys for the most part, right? Like Chase Young should rebound and stuff. Do you go a linebacker? Maybe. Do you go a corner? Maybe, right? Like I think you got a good duo there. William Jackson should be better, but maybe you want some solid depth and stuff. Ultimately, I think you're going to end up going with either Dax Hill or Lewis Seen here. And it kind of depends on what you want, right? Because if you want kind of that box safety, like your strong safety and stuff, you're going Lewis Seen here. However, if you want more of that over-the-top high safety guy, then you want your Dax Hill. And in this case, when you've already got Cam Curl, who is more of like that strong safety role, I think you go with more over-the-top here and bring Daxton Hill to the team. I think they went linebacker this year. They're a team that doesn't always go with the most obvious spot. Dax Hill makes a lot of sense here. I think he'll probably end up in Washington in this scenario. 21, the Patriots. I think there's still a high chance to go receiver here. They'll probably like, some of these receivers for sure. Otherwise, they really need a guard. Kenyon Green, I don't know if he's a Patriot-type player. As far as defense goes, do you maybe want to go Jordan Davis? Potentially, right? Like you're switching to more of a 4-3, so I don't think he fits all that well in a 4-3. In that case, maybe you want to go with more of a Devontae Wyatt, who could go higher than people maybe expect, even though people are high on him. I think edge is very much in play here. Corner, certainly in play. Ultimately, it really does come down to either George Karlaftis or Trent McDuffie for me. And I think they're going to make the pick that I also made for them in my mock. I should probably stop spoiling picks, but you're probably not going to go watch it anyways. Trent McDuffie, though, does make a lot of sense to me. You got rid of J.C. Jackson because he, at the end of the day, is mainly an elite man corner. And obviously, you're moving to a 4-3. You're probably going to be playing more zone. You want a great zone corner, and I think arguably Trent McDuffie is the best zone corner in the class. So I think it fits. It feels like a Patriots pick. I think overall it makes sense. At number 22, we got the Packers. And again, receiver is a very big need for the Packers right now. Treylon Burks makes a lot of sense. Can you maybe get him at 28 is the question, because the Cardinals could definitely take a receiver, but probably not round one. Otherwise, the Cowboys don't need one. The Bills don't need one. The Titans maybe go with one, but do they need Treylon Burks? So you're wondering, like, can you get him at 28? Well, in that case, who else are you taking here? Maybe you don't have the pick, right? There's Darren Waller trade talk right now. We'll see if that happens, but maybe you go with Kenyon Green here. I don't think Jordan Davis makes sense, right? You have Kenny Clark. Maybe you want to get a pass rusher, right? A Jermaine Johnson type to go kind of at that D-end role. Is there a player that a team is really wanting to trade up here? Because I keep, thinking like the Chiefs, or I feel like definitely have to trade up at some point in this draft, but Is there a guy that you're really going to want to like trade up here for? And I feel like that's either, Treylon Burks or one of these edge rushers. Um, Packers are also a team that don't really, they don't need draft capital. They have like 12 picks. So I don't think a trade ends up happening here. If I'm the Packers, I'm kind of scared of the Chiefs coming up here for Treylon Burks, who I do think is a very good fit in this Packers offense. So while you could probably get him at 28, you're hoping at least, I'm just going to be safe and take him here. You can probably get one of these pass rushers down at 28. Treylon Burks makes a lot of sense, right? Packers like their big blocking receivers, and Treylon Burks is a big receiver that can block well, but also a very good slot, which they don't really have, right? They don't have that like slot guy. So I think it makes a lot of sense here for Green Bay. 23, we got the Cardinals. Kyrie Elam is still available, and I think he would make a lot of sense here for the Cardinals. You also definitely want to go edge here, right? They're going to be looking at that, someone to place across from J.J. Watt. I think Kenyon Green also makes a lot of sense here, probably to play more of that right tackle spot, although I don't really view him as a tackle. So, yeah, I mean, you're looking different places here for your Arizona. One pick here in the first round. You're not picking for a while again. There is a really good edge rusher here who has fallen to the spot. I think he makes a lot of sense as more of a 3-4 end. Karlaftis, I think more of a 4-3 end guy. That's probably going to switch to more of a 4-3 interior role. Jermaine Johnson, while he does make sense, I think this is actually probably the spot Jordan Davis goes, but it's tough between these two. It is tough, but maybe Leaky Fotu works out as a bit more as a DN. So I'm going to go Jordan Davis here. You get yourself some really nice run defense, right? You're looking for those players that can kind of just fill the gaps, but add talent to your team, go push for something. Jordan Davis is going to give you some really good run defense, fills your hole at defensive tackle. Maybe you try Rashard Lawrence and Leaky Fotu at more of the DN role. I think it makes sense here for the Cardinals. 24, the Cowboys. Here at 24, Bernhard Raymond makes a lot of sense here. So does Kenyon Green. They could really use someone at right tackle right now because I don't think that they, at least me, I wouldn't want to go into the season with Terrence Steele starting at right tackle. But with Randy Gregory leaving, you're also definitely looking at guys like Jermaine Johnson, George Karlaftis. I think Lewis Cine also still makes a lot of sense here for Dallas. So many different places you can go. I don't really see a trade out happening here. If anything, they would trade up, but that's not going to happen at this point. Yeah, Bernhard Raymond or Jermaine Johnson really feels like the pick here for me. And, Kenyon Green, actually, I feel like is more likely than Bernhard Raymond at this point. So, Kenyon Green or Jermaine Johnson, I think they'd probably go Kenyon Green, a guy that can play tackle or guard, probably more of a guard in the NFL. I imagine they'd probably try to work him out at tackle first. But if not, he can kind of fill that role Connor Williams left. So I think it makes a lot of sense. He'll stay in Texas. Bills at 25. And the Bills here could go Breece Hall. It kind of seems like every year we have a running back in the first regardless. And maybe this is that pick, right, where it's like a talented team that ends up going with running back, right? But they still do have other needs. I don't feel like either of these guys are really like Bills players. Maybe you want to go Kyrie Elam here at 25. I do believe Elam will probably go in the first round, but it's just kind of where. He definitely deserves to go. He's that talented. Yeah, honestly, I don't really think there is another pick here that makes sense at this point in the draft. Do you maybe want to trade down? Well, if you're the Chiefs, what are you trading up here for, really? At this point, you've got two teams that or three teams. Well, actually, yeah, because if you got the Packers and the Buccaneers who could both be looking for pass rush, if you're the Bills, none of these teams are going to be taking a running back like that. Maybe the Chiefs, but you're trading down with them. So I think this is probably a spot where we see a trade. And we're going to have the Chiefs trading up here. So not a lot of trades, obviously, but Chiefs trading up here are going to give 29 for 25, obviously. And they'll probably throw in, you're looking at a few late day 3 picks here to get rid of some of them if you're the Chiefs. You're not going to go through. I'll tell you guys, when it goes through. And we're back. Yeah, it's basically just, some late day 3 picks just mid to late day 3 picks for the Chiefs to move up a few spots here, get up and select Jermaine Johnson, who they're going to pair across from Frank Clark, let Chris Jones stay mainly as that interior role. I believe the NFL are lower on Jermaine Johnson. I do think he's pretty much going to be Carl Lawson 2.0, which if you're the Chiefs, you're kind of okay with, I think. But you're obviously hoping he can be something more. But I think it makes a lot of sense here for the Chiefs to jump up here and get their guy that they want. Then at 26, the Titans. See, I do think Matt Corral does make a lot of sense, right? There's been a lot of talk of like Matt Corral going to the Titans at 26. I mean, because otherwise, really, where do you go, right? I mean, linebacker is a need for them, but do any of these players fit particularly well? I don't know. You do need O-line help, but I don't really think anyone's like fitting that bill. Tyler Smith, if anyone does, and I don't know if he's a first rounder at the end of the day. Receiver, a big need. Did they go with any of these receivers, though? I don't think so. So, yeah, I feel like it's probably Matt Corral or Desmond Ridder here. And, yeah, I think I'm going to go Matt Corral here. You're entering a season where Ryan Tannehill really needs to prove it. And even if he does, right, you can attribute some of that to the lighting a fire under him. And if he does, great, right? Because then you're putting yourself into true contention there in the AFC. But otherwise, if he doesn't, you need to start looking at what's your next step. And a guy like Matt Corral that is very raw in some respects, but with some proper time and coaching at the next level could turn into a solid to good quarterback. I think it makes a lot of sense here for Tennessee. So, yeah, you're keeping the kid in the South and getting Matt Corral here. 27, the Buccaneers. Now, I would go with quarterback here because, I think you need to have a plan, get a battle, right? Maybe like a Carson Strong and Kyle Trask going for when Brady leaves after this year because I feel like it's got to happen, right? Do you go tight end? Maybe. Cameron Brate's your starter as of right now. I don't know if Gronk's going to come back. I mean, I think Trey McBride makes sense here. You have a big need at guard. Do you maybe go with like a Tyler Smith, a Sean Ryan here? I think both are, decently worth a late first. You need edge help as well, though, right? You got some great guys on the board. David Ojabo is still available, right? I mean, I think he'll probably drop to the late first because of the injury. But do you maybe want to go with a guy like Ojabo who could play across from Shaq Barrett and Trianka when he comes in, right? You could definitely do that. George Karlaftis could fit in there. You need corner help for the future. Maybe this is where you go Kyrie Elam, keep him in Florida. It's kind of tough, right? Because I think the pick that makes the most sense here is Carson Strong for me. But is that what the Buccaneers do? It's kind of tough to judge. I feel like this is probably the team, honestly, where I don't think I can accurately predict what they're going to do here, to be honest. If I'm Tampa, I'm definitely going a quarterback here. In real life, I don't think that they trust Kyle Trask enough to be the quarterback right now. And I think they will go with Carson Strong. We're going to see back-to-back quarterbacks go here. I know teams are very high on Desmond Ridder. I think you probably have Carson Strong over him. And it makes more sense for Tampa Bay here, going from that immobile pocket quarterback to an immobile pocket quarterback. Although Carson Strong is a bit more mobile than Brady. But I think it makes sense. Get a quarterback. You're giving a battle between him and Trask. You're looking for your guy of the future. Makes sense. Packers at 28. Like I said, I don't think George Karlaftis is really like the 3-4 edge, but he could work like that. Another team that also needs offensive line help, but do you go there? I don't know, right? You got Treylon Burks earlier. Yeah, I think you probably go George Karlaftis here. You're looking for that edge to kind of play, next to Kenny Clark and Jerron Reed. You got Rashawn Gary. You got Preston Smith. You've got yourself a really nice pass rush here. I'm not the biggest fan of Karlaftis personally, but he will be a first rounder. I think a late first rounder. And I think he'll go to the Packers here. I think it'd be a decent pick for them. And then 29 Bills. They traded down for Breece Hall. He's still here. That's, and I still think Kyrie Elam's in play here, but they traded down for Breece Hall. You're going to get him. Devin Singletary hasn't played completely up to par. You're getting yourself a very good, very powerful running back that has shown he can play good behind a bad offensive line. You give him a decent one at the very least here. He's going to add a new level to your offense, and the Bills are going to be really, really, really freaking hard to stop. Chiefs here at 30. I think they could go receiver here. I think Jahan Dotson makes a lot of sense, right? You've got MVS, you got Juju. You maybe want to get, because you got, MVS can go downfield, right? So you kind of got a guy that can do that. Do you want Dotson at that point? I don't know. Sky Moore makes a lot of sense as well. I don't know if he quite makes into the first round, but he does make sense. Kyrie Elam kind of makes a lot of sense to me here, actually, because you've got L'Jarius Sneed, but outside of that, not a lot at corner. For a team that, like, obviously you have a great offense, I think they've kind of got what they want at receiver right now. Like, Jahan Dotson does make sense. They could go tackle here, for sure, like Bernhard Raymond, but I think you're just going to be going to upgrade the defense here, and I do think Kyrie Elam makes a lot of sense. Maybe a pick not a lot of people are expecting, but it does make sense to me, and Kyrie Elam is massively underrated, so it'd probably end up being a really good pick for the Chiefs here. So I think it makes sense. The Chiefs are going to go with Kyrie Elam here. Bengals at 31. I keep, it's what I keep doing in all my mock drafts, but I think it's what's actually going to happen. If a good corner is not here for the Bengals, which the last round were I think in real life, round 1 corner just went, you're going to go Tyler Linderbaum, right? Fill out of the offensive line. It's just pretty simple that Ted Karras is a much better guard than he is a better center, right? I would much rather have Jonah Williams, Ted Karras, Tyler Linderbaum, Alex Kappa, La'el Collins. You got yourself a great offensive lineup all of a sudden for Joe Burrow in hopes to go back to the Super Bowl, because that'd just be so fantastic to give Joe Burrow. And then last but not least, we got the Lions here at 32. In real life, probably going to go Aiden Hutchinson. So here, I mean, receivers certainly in play. In reality, that's probably where they go, because I don't imagine they go quarterback here. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Yeah, and I think Jahan Dotson's probably a guy that's going to sneak into the first round, and that's going to be here with the last pick of the Lions. He just gives them that speed threat that, they don't really have, right? Like, they've got guys like DJ Chark, but he's kind of overrated, I think. They got a solid receiving unit, but I think Jahan Dotson would make a great duo going forward with Amon-Ra St. Brown and creating some nice weapons along with TJ Hawkinson for Jared Goff to throw to. But that is going to be my predictive first round mock. Again, if this does well, I'll do a second round. But I hope you guys enjoyed, though. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. The draft is in a few days. I'm excited. Are you guys excited? Let me know. Thank you all so much. Wow. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.